Welcome back to the Fan Speak Network. And now we are here to overreact to yesterday's game and talk about how terrible the Las Vegas Raiders are. All right, Tyler, we are live. Took a little while to get going. Sorry for the shaky start, but I'm excited to talk NFL with you today. We had a fun opening weekend, and we did quite well. 5-1 on our sheet so far, so we're off to a great start of the season. Always feels good to get ahead right off the bat because we know that every week isn't going to go this well. But week one went very well for the picks and the projections for you and I. We're going to go game by game, but let's just start just a general overall thought from watching football yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to have football back for sure. This definitely was fun. We went, 5-1 on the sheet, so made some money. I mean, it was entertaining. There were some entertaining games, a couple games we'll talk about. I think we should just dive right into them.
All right, let's dive right in right now. Let's start on Thursday night. I know we've already talked about it a little. But the Chiefs won 27-20. Your main takeaways from that one?
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs looked like they were the best team in the league, like we thought they were. Baltimore looked a little better, but they couldn't really move the ball through the air. Like I still don't think they have a real receiver. I don't think Zay Flowers is all that good. Likely looks like their wide receiver one, and he was their tight end too. But the little mix and match of Derrick Henry and Justice Hill wasn't bad. Lamar ran good, but he can't take that many hits all year. He's going to get hurt. So they're still one of the top teams in the AFC, but Kansas City is still the best team in the league.
Yeah, that was the same thing I thought as well. I didn't like the prevent at the end, but it seemed to work. But I thought that was kind of rough. But when we're just overall evaluating that team, shows you how important quarterback is. And as long as Patrick Mahomes is back there, they're probably going to be the favorite to win everything.
Yep.
I know people have talked about that game a ton, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Chiefs going forward. So let us continue. So I didn't see this one, Tyler, so you're going to have to fill me in. The Eagles beat the Packers 34-29. Can you believe they made Jordan Love and those guys play on that field? Now they just give the guy like $50 million, which they probably shouldn't have done. And
it looked like they were on ice skates.
Just terrible. I mean, how frustrating must you be to be a Packers fan coming to the season with all this hope? Because even though I wasn't buying into it, I had to admit that it was a logistical possibility that they could be a Super Bowl team. I personally wasn't on that train, but I acknowledged it as a possibility, right? For example, like I don't think the Carolina Panthers are a Super Bowl contender, but the Green Bay Packers surely are. How disappointing was that loss to you? And what are your thoughts on the Eagles? Because I actually have some more hot takes on this game.
Yeah, I think the Eagles looked really good. I mean, Jordan Love didn't look all that good before the injury. He had a couple plays where guys had busted coverage and they were wide open. So, I mean, any quarterback could have hit those throws. When he was trying to throw into coverage, he couldn't get the ball to anyone. So then he has a terrible injury to end the game. They said he's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks, I believe. They're not reaching out for a quarterback, so they're just going to run Malik Willis out there. That's not a good place to be. I don't think he's NFL caliber at all. So I think they're going to lose games. I don't think they can lean on the running game as much as people think. Josh Jacobs didn't look all that good. And Philly looked like they could be right back to where they were 2 years ago. I mean, Saquon looked great behind that offensive line. The tush push didn't work a couple times, but we expected that with no Jason Kelsey, which I don't roll out him coming back. So watch out for that by week 6. But their defense looked all right, other than those couple busted plays. So I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFC.
They are a force to be reckoned with. But I'll tell you what, I was not impressed with their defense at all. And we'll see how much of that. And I told you before the game that I wasn't really too interested in this game because I wanted to, kind of just throw those results out. Just because it was a weird international game. But from what I did see, I wasn't impressed with Philadelphia's defense at all. And I don't see how they're going to have a chance to win in the NFC East and if that doesn't improve. Now we know they switched coordinators, but I think it was a downgrade from the current coordinator. And I just don't know if they have the personnel there to get it done. So I don't know. I'm not as high on Philly coming off that win, but I also want to reserve judgment for a game played in the United States. Anything more on our two solo games before we move into yesterday morning's action?
No, we could jump right into yesterday.
The Buffalo Bills, man, I thought that was going to be the upset of the week there early going when the Cardinals had a 14-point lead. Kyler was running around. They were looking great. Josh Allen comes back, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, another great performance. I mean, the guy completely carries that team. You take them off, and they're like a 5-12 squad. Also hurt during the game, so we'll talk about that more as we're previewing.
They said he should be fine.
Yeah, but it's gonna just keep adding up, man. They just need him so much. On the other side, man, Marvin Harrison, what happened? We're all excited about this guy. He did absolutely nothing. Kyler was electric as usual. Not really a big day from Trey McBride, and they couldn't really get the rushing attack going against what I don't really consider to be a good Buffalo defense. So talk to me about your thoughts on the Cardinals. They put together a good showing during the loss, but as we watch them fall apart, it's hard for us to upgrade them. And the Bills look like they could be like the Chiefs a couple years ago, all offense, no defense. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's what the Bills are going to be, all offense, no defense. It's going to be a lot of Josh Allen. So I don't hate getting on him at MVP, even though the number's down to like plus 550, but he should be the guy right now other than Mahomes because he's just going to be needed so much. So the stats are going to be there. And if they win the games, he's just going to fly up those rankings. As for Arizona, I mean, we don't upgrade them. We don't downgrade them. This is what we thought they were going to be. They can score a lot of points, but in the end, they're going to give up more points than they score. And that's what happened. They were able to score early on Buffalo. Buffalo had a couple turnovers. You know how Josh Allen could be. So, I mean, I don't take much from this game. The teams are what we thought they were going to be this year. So,
man, he told me this was okay. You were breaking up just a little bit there, but okay. So, yeah, we're not going to adjust either of our team rankings in off that. I mean, it's pretty close to the number.
No, I don't think we do.
Right? It was
I think it's
around 6.5 at close, and it landed on 6. So it almost feels like the market got the teams right too.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. The next game on the docket. Let's go to the most boring game of the morning. The New Orleans Saints just absolutely destroyed the Carolina Panthers. I mean, I know you want to tell me that Derek Carr sucks, but I mean, no. You know who sucks? Bryce Young. Gardner Minshew, right? I mean, these guys shouldn't, and Deshaun Watson. I mean, these guys shouldn't be NFL quarterbacks. Like, Derek Carr's at least an NFL quarterback. He was going against the easiest defense in the league, so I'm not ready to say he's like back in the top 10 or back in the top 15, right? But I mean, he doesn't suck like some of you guys think he does.
Yeah, I think Bryce is broken. No confidence. I mean, I still think Derek Carr sucks, but I think anyone could have scored 40 against that defense. I mean, guys were wide open. That looked like when the college teams like Alabama play like just what are those one of those like really little schools that they just warm up on, like Furman or
like Northern Illinois. Oh, my bad, Notre Dame fans.
Yeah. Oh, is that the game that was the upset of the week? I didn't get to see much college football. Yeah, but I mean that's what that game looked like. Carolina just destroyed ever since that ownership up, and that's going to be end of fit. They're the new Browns spread. They're going to be like this for like 10 to 15 years. Like,
I don't know, man. They can fix this. This is the NFL. They can fix it quick, right? So at the end of the year, they know they move on from Bryce Young. Unlike the Browns, unlike the Broncos, unlike the New York Giants, they didn't invest a crap load of money in this guy. Yeah, they screwed up that trade, but all they really gave up was players and draft.
The owner was the one that screwed up everything, and he's not going anywhere.
Well, he can learn from his mistakes.
I mean, yeah,
right? Like the 49ers owner, Jed York, screwed up everything for about 5 to 6 years. And I remember laughing at Niners fans going, you guys have the crappiest owner in the league. And then he hired Jim Harbaugh, and all of a sudden he's been a smart owner ever since. So,
yeah, but
I'm not as down on the Panthers as you are long term. But
this guy was never remember, he was like never into football before buying the team. He kind of just bought the team as a business thing. So,
Well, he's
This
going to
might be
continue
one
to
of
make
those.
money too because the NFL just prints.
Exactly.
So talk to me then. I mean, the Chargers. Do you think they're going to put up 47 on the Panthers next week?
Oh, I think there's a chance. I mean, J.K. Dobbins looks like he's back. I mean, he is showing yet against the Raiders defense.
All right. Well, we'll move to that game a little more, but boy, was that boring. And it's funny because I didn't bet that game, but my buddy did that I was hanging out with at the book. And before we kicked it, 10 a.m. for us, I go, bro, I didn't bet that Saints game, but that one's got the potential to be your easiest bet. I said, you might be up 30-0 in the third quarter. And I think it was 30-3 going into the third quarter. So, I mean, boy, I should have put my money where my mouth is. One that I disagreed with everybody on that I ended up covering, but I don't really want to brag too hard because it could have gone either way. But it's just when you're catching three, like the Indianapolis Colts were, when it was 15-13 and they missed the 2-point conversion, me and my buddy both have Colts +3, and I go, that's perfect for us. And to me, it played out perfectly because I knew that on that final drive by the Colts, right, they would drive down. If they scored the touchdown, the Texans weren't going to punch it back. The Texans were going to run out the clock. So you knew the +3 was good. That's why the +3 is so important in those divisional home games, and we'll continue to ride that trend all year. So I think the Texans look good. I mean, the Texans are what we thought they were. They have this elite offense. I want to talk about the Colts. You know, I wasn't high on Richardson all year, but not necessarily because of his play on the field. I'm just worried that he's so injury prone. However, when he's out there, he's dynamic. Two of the best highlights of the day. Well, three. That touchdown run.
Can we talk about that bazooka he threw from 70 yards out?
Yeah. I mean, the guy is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
What about the other throws, though? Like, what about the underneath throws? That's where he's really hurting. I mean, do you think that's going to develop, or is he always going to be like this?
I mean, I think he's always going to be like this to a point. Like, maybe he hits a couple underneath throws here and there, but I don't think he becomes like super accurate underneath. He's just got too much power spread. I mean, you've seen it in that bomb he threw to Alec Pierce. He slipped the moment before he let go of that ball. So he didn't even have his footing, and he was able to launch it 70 yards down the field. Like, how many quarterbacks can do that in the league? Not many.
Yeah. So quite the cannon there. It's going to be fun to watch.
As for the other side,
yeah,
I was going to say, as for the other side, did Mixon have the quietest 160 yards in a touchdown I've ever seen? Yeah, no one said a word about that stat line.
No highlights at all. Yeah.
I didn't know
he
had that many yards
when he was going around in the 50s in best ball. I'm like, he's just the new Rashad White. He's just going to be all usage.
Yep, all usage. The next highest run attempts, Pierce had 3, and Stroud had 4. So there's just nothing there. He's going to get it all for himself.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was one of the most exciting games of the day. I'm trying to think what other takeaways I had from it. That was just pretty much it. The Colts are going to be live all year, and the Texans offense is going to be unreal.
Yeah, Texans offense is going to be a problem.
Just looking ahead to a couple teams we talk about, I see the Colts laying 3.5 in Green Bay. I mean, how far is that line going to go?
Oh, it's going to keep going because they announced Malik Willis as a starter, and they're not getting Tannehill. So
probably going to go to 5 or 6 by Sunday.
I'd say 5.5. And maybe gets to 6.
I wonder how that's going to look, man. I really wonder how that's going to look. It just seems like the easiest game of the week. Like I said, this week, the Texans look like the easiest bet of the week, right? At -2.5, and then it ends up not being good. So I have not jumped on that yet. So we'll monitor that situation there because probably going to be like the sportsbook last night. Everybody had the Lions. So we were late to do on the cash out, and when I was doing it, the girl was like, man, my drawer's almost out of money, right? Because everybody was on the Lions. I think it's going to be another case like that where everybody's going to be on the Colts. Let's see if the Packers can do the unthinkable and actually pull off the cover there. Man, you know me, I'm a Jacksonville fan. I want the Jaguars to be good. I want Trevor to be good. They were off to an early lead. They were up, 17-7 at halftime, and they got shut out the whole second half. Almost
you watch
opposite
the
of that
game, though?
playoff game. Yeah.
I
Well, I mean,
mean,
there's 8 games on in the sports book, but yeah.
it was just. I mean, I had that one like dedicated screen, so I was focused on that one. The
Okay,
Jags
talk to
just
me then.
they gifted Miami that game. Like the Jags looked very good throughout the half. I mean, they were up 17-3. They were about to go up 24-3. Etienne was walking into the end zone with the ball,
Oh, and that
and
fumble?
it gets knocked out of his hand. They pick it up. Next play is an 80-yard Tyreek Hill touchdown. So 14-point swing there. They can't generate any offense because then the momentum shifted. And it just in the end they just couldn't cover. Or they did cover in the end. They just couldn't win outright. But I still think they looked really good. Brian Thomas Jr. looked really good. Miami was just able to squeak it out in the end. And
Look
if
better
they
than
walk
Marvin
into the end zone
Harrison.
and if he doesn't fumble the ball on the goal line, which happens once every 100 times, so they would have been up 24-3, and this conversation would be different. We would be asking what's wrong with Miami. So, I mean, I don't take much from that. They look very good in my opinion.
Yeah. We already talked about the Bills a little bit, Tyler. Which way are you leaning for that Thursday night game?
Maybe slightly into the Bills.
That's fine. We're opposite again.
The Bills just always beat up on Miami.
I know that's the only thing. Looking into it, so
they're going to be able to run the ball too.
Two was 1-6 against, and this is straight up against the Bills. And Josh Allen's 10-2 against the Dolphins.
Yeah,
Sean McDermott 8-5-1 against the spread. So that overlaps with the Allen time, but yeah, they have been covering. Miami's only laying 1.5, but I don't know. I like Miami at home on the short week, only laying 1.5. So I'm leaning towards the Dolphins there. We'll talk about that more after we do the projections and we put the plays up on the sheet where we went 5-1 in week 1. Almost had the sweep, Tyler. Almost had the sweep. The very next game I want to talk to you about, another victory lap for me, Tyler, as Sam Darnold gets the victory with the Minnesota Vikings. Talk to me about the team that you thought was going to be absolutely terrible as they put on a dominating performance. Although, let's go ahead and put this out here. I don't know if that was the Vikings win as much as it was the Giants loss. How terrible is that Giants team? And when we talk about mistakes like the Panthers, they didn't pay Bryce Young $40 million. They paid Daniel Jones all that money. So now they're not only have to get at least Carolina can start with a fresh straight.
Did you see the stat that he's thrown more pick sixes than he's thrown touchdown passes since he's gotten that money?
I mean, it's it's so funny. We keep talking about the worst contracts, right? First was Russell Wilson. And if it wasn't for Deshaun Watson, it would be up there.
Yeah, it's
only reason that we don't.
I mean, Watson still gives
Jones
you a
might be worse
flash
than
here and
Russell
there.
Wilson. What's up?
Daniel Jones is worse. Yes, 100%. Daniel Jones got the worst contract in the league.
No, Deshaun.
No, I think it's Daniel Jones.
All right, well, we'll continue to argue about that. That's guys, put it in the chat or in the comments. Worst contract, Daniel Jones or Deshaun Watson. So I know you weren't high in Minnesota during the year, and I really want a victory lap and all this stuff. But let's be honest, I thought this was just more a referendum on how bad the New York Giants were. Darnold looked good, and when we talk about fantasy and Battle Royale and DFS, right, I think Darnold's going to be better than they expect. Question is, how is the defense good, or is the Giants just that bad? Because I'm leaning towards that bad, and I also think that going against Flores was rough. Who was going to go ahead and just put all that pressure in
I'm leaning towards that bad. But I mean, it's a Flores system. So once they got the lead, they were just able to pin their ears back and blitz. But it's just one of those things. I want to see them play a team that can actually keep up / even put up a little bit of fight on the offensive side.
Well, we talked about it in your preview show, right? They go on a little gauntlet right now, right?
Yeah. So I'd have to look at their schedule again, but let me pull up next week's lines. They get San Francisco next week, so they get a nice test next week. Yeah,
they're at home though, and I mean it might change after tonight, but what I saw was that they're catching 5.5. That'll probably go to 7.
Yeah, that's what
assuming
I see
they're
right now.
Tonight, and that's what I'm thinking. Okay, well that was a fun little victory lap. And Sam Darnold's not as bad as we thought, right? I mean, You'd rather have Darnold than Jones, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, he's got to be at least number 25 to 26. He's got to be better
I'd
than
have to sit down.
Minshew. He's better than Minshew, Young, Watson, Nix.
Yeah, I could say that.
Right?
Nick's looked a little good for. He looked decent for being in that hostile.
But you know what? You're gonna love this one. Well, I'll save it for that game because I got a fun stat that basically proves everything you told me all summer. Okay, so Giants suck. We don't really know if the Vikings are really good or if the Giants just suck really bad. One more thing about the Giants. I mean, can they turn it around? I mean, we know it's only one game, and we've even seen great teams play bad, right? Like the Chiefs lost to the Raiders last year, right? It doesn't mean they're a terrible team.
No, but we knew the Chiefs were coasting through the regular season. The Giants just don't have any bright spots to look through. Like, unless they overexceed expectations in like every category they possibly can, then they're not gonna do anything. They're picking Carson Beck first overall or Quinn Ewers. So
what about Cam Ward?
I'm not as high on him as the other two.
I like Cam Ward.
I think Dion would have to. He'd tell the Giants that he'd be over his dead body, that his kid's playing for the Giants.
I don't think Shador would go number one either.
But if the Giants,
I think that Beck and Ward are both better prospects.
I think Ewers is the best quarterback in the draft.
You like Ewers more than Beck and Ward?
Yeah.
Okay, we disagree there too. The New England Patriots knocked myself and 35% of the tournament out of Survivor, getting a 16-10 win as 8.5-point dogs. Okay, this is actually here where we can actually do some overreacting. What do we do here, Tyler? I mean, are we upgrading the Patriots? The Bengals have actually always started like crap, so maybe we need to remember that next year. Just fade them in week one.
Yeah.
But this is really what this show's about. I mean, are we ready to say the Patriots are a playoff team and the Bengals are going to be drafted number 3 overall? Let's overreact to this terrible loss for the Cincinnati Bengals.
No, I mean, I can't really overreact to it. They were missing Chase was out there 9% of snaps or something like that. I read, or it was something with the Christian Watson coverage too, or Christian Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
With his coverage, he was able to do very well against Chase. Then they're running Yoshi Voss as their second wide receiver. That's not.
Yeah, what happened to all our Jermaine Burton shares? Those are dead, huh?
Yeah, I mean, they announced Yoshi Voss was wide receiver 3, and Burton had to get used to the system. But I mean, I still think you see Burton at some point. Their defense didn't look all that good, but New England's offense was just able to run the ball with Stevenson and work it down there with their tight ends. So, I mean, I don't think New England's much of a playoff team, and the fact that they just stole a win from week 1, maybe, or what they did was they ruined survivor pools, and that last winless team bet where they were like plus 270, they opened up the market wide for that. So if you could still get those, I mean, maybe look into that, see if I can find those. Yeah, last remaining winless team. Carolina's plus 380. The Giants are 5-1. Commanders 7-1. Titans 750. Denver 10-1. The Raiders 13-1. Interesting, Green Bay at 15-1.
Patriots host the Seahawks next week. They're catching 3 at home. Where are you leaning right now?
Probably Seattle. Even though Seattle's offensive line looked absolutely terrible yesterday.
Well, they lost, I think, Fant, their left tackle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucked. Bengals catching 6 in Kansas City. Where are you leaning on that one?
Did you say Fant?
Noah, not Noah Fant. It's not.
That's why I had me confused for a second. Okay.
I did too. I was like, wait, Fant is 74? I was like, no, he's not, and then I'm like, oh, never mind, that's their tackle. Think the Bengals bounce back next week? It'll probably go to 7. It's a 6 right now.
It just all with them. It just all depends on their injury report when we finally get it. So
let's just assume they're fully healthy. Let's say Higgins is back.
Chase is back. They bounce back.
And they probably cover, right? Because the Chiefs always win without covering.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, another disappointing start for the Bengals, but they're pretty used to it. Bengals stacks in hell with Joe Burrow only catching 164 yards. Chase actually got 6 receptions there, but not what you want out of a guy that a lot of people are drafting with their very first
fifth
pick.
overall, 6th overall. So
yeah, and I saw him go even higher in some drafts. I mean, I've seen drafts where he was the number 1 receiver off the board. All right, Tyler, man, I had to stretch before this one. Another victory lap for me, Tyler. The Pittsburgh Steelers got the victory. What I tell you about these old quarterbacks coming off an injury, and this is going to play into a little more before our preview tonight, right? But Cousins looked absolutely shook. Now, I'm not ready to write him off because there's a chance that Steelers defense is the best defense in the league. And it's so crazy when I watch these games because, like, there's like 4 or 5 defensive ends, and I'm just like, that's the best player in football. It's not a quarterback, right? And TJ Watt looked like it yesterday, right? And you see Myles Garrett, and you're like, he's the best. And you see Micah Parsons, you're like, he's the best, right? I mean, there's so many of these edge rushers that just completely changed the game. But I thought that the Falcons were completely inflated by fantasy love. I know they got these quote unquote great weapons, and they had the new offensive coordinator here. But they had a 36-year-old quarterback that hadn't played since last October, coming off an ACL in a new system, and it was going against an elite defense. Now, I'm not ready to rate the Falcons off because I think that I'm going to be advocating for playing them next week because the defense looks so bad against Pittsburgh. But like I said, there's a chance that Pittsburgh is the very best defense in football. Now we're going to Philadelphia, a defense that I think Philadelphia is going to turn into like the Chiefs. They're going to just be outscoring everybody. I don't really know if they're going to be able to get stops. I think the Atlanta could look a lot better next week. So I'm not ready to write them off, but I'm not surprised that they had a slow start. And I'm just pissed that I bet it on my own, but I couldn't get you to join me there. As my only regret is I didn't take the money line. Pretty easy win for the Steelers. What'd you think of Justin Fields and how are people out? And, because you live out near Pittsburgh, how are they feeling about new QB1 Justin Fields?
Yeah, I mean, Fields looked decent. I'm not going to say it was an easy win.
They
didn't score it. They didn't score a touchdown. They won the game.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I'll take it. But their defense, this is how they're going to win games. They're going to ride their defense. They're going to look like shit on offense, throw the ball to Pickens every once in a while, and he's going to go for like a 30-yard game. Maybe every once in a while he houses one. But everything else is going to be underneath the Freiermuth. The other gadget receivers won't do much. It's just going to be running the ball. So it's going to be a boring game. It's nice having Boswell who can kick from 50 plus, and he's the most accurate quarterback from that far, or most accurate kicker from that far. But it's an ugly win.
On some fantasy news, our guy Felix Castro's got to be happy. Najee slimmed down a little, dude. He looked good. I think that's the best he's looked since.
Now he's got an offensive line. He's not getting hit behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he looked a lot, and he looks a little thinner, dude. He looks a little more burst. I think he was sick of everyone saying that they need Jaylen Warren for that juice, and I think he slimmed down.
He did not look good.
Warren, he shouldn't even been playing.
No.
When he originally hurt himself, they said he was going to be out to like week 4, week 5. I don't know why they rushed him back.
The best part about that entire Pittsburgh game spread wasn't even anything that happened on the field. It was the fact that Russell Wilson was inactive. So Justin Fields could have been abducted by aliens mid-game, and Russell Wilson couldn't have came into the game. But he's walking around in full gear with eye paint on.
Yeah. You gotta love it, Mr. Unlimited. No, I was so happy though because I drafted a ton of Fields here in the best ball in the late rounds. That was one of my Hail Marys. So I want him to keep that job. And it doesn't matter if they don't score a touchdown as long as they keep winning. I don't think that Tomlin makes a change there.
I think he just
fair. They have a tough matchup next week though, don't they? Who do they play next week?
No, they play Denver next week.
The lines already. Oh yeah, that's what I want to ask you. What do you think of that one? They're laying 3 in Denver. Doesn't that seem like I kind of like Pittsburgh there, bro? I think they're gonna. If they did that to Kirk Cousins, who knows what he's doing? What is he gonna do, Bo Nix?
TJ Watt's gonna have Bo Nix in a mental torture chamber.
Yeah, I like Pittsburgh there.
Bo Nix has never seen anything like TJ Watt.
Yeah. I mean, and all the different looks that Tomlin can give, and my only concern is that don't the Steelers always do this in games they're supposed to win? Right? Don't they always come in? It's 4-point dogs and shock the world and da-da-da-da-da. And then when they get the chance for the layup, they screw it. That's why they were 9-8 every year, right?
Yep.
because they
This
win
is
every
a
game as an underdog
they
and they lose
typically
as
lose.
favorites. But I just,
This-
as high as I am on Bo Nix, I just think this is a fade spot. I think that's such a tough defense to prepare for. And that's why, like I said, I'm not ready to write off Cousins because, but I don't know. 30, he looked pretty old. At what point do they start calling for Penix if he keeps doing stuff like that, Tyler?
No, I think they'll definitely start calling for him soon. He looked like a
Yeah,
statue in the pocket. He couldn't move at all.
Yeah, because he was never fast to begin with, and then you're coming off the ACL or the Achilles or whatever it is. I mean, yeah. Also, I don't know how good Raheem Morris really is as a coach. And who's the OC there? Who's
I'd
running
have to
that
look.
offense?
I'd have to
It's a
look.
big
I'm not
name,
sure.
isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. All right. Well, Arthur Smith gets some revenge against the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm sure you guys will let a victory lap me soon because they're not going to keep that offense down all year. But and it might even be next week that you guys are because, like I said, I don't think the Eagles' defense is as good as people think. A defense that did look good was the Tennessee Titans. The only problem is that Will Levis looked even worse. Bro, they gave that game away. Bro, that was my only loss in the morning. I would have been 5-0 for the morning games. They were up 17-0 in the
that was
third
by far
quarter.
the worst loss of the entire slate.
Bears didn't even
You
score an
lose to a team
offensive
that doesn't-
touchdown.
Yeah, you lose to a team that didn't even score an offensive touchdown. It's just an ugly game for how Will Levis was throwing interceptions on balls he should have just threw in the dirt. Like that last one he threw, even though it produced the meme where he's on his knees with his hands on his head like this, watching the guy run it back, which is funny. But I mean, it was just a terrible sequence.
Bro, that's almost like a season-ending loss. Like I remember the year the Raiders made the playoffs, we were playing, I believe it was New Orleans. It was New Orleans or Atlanta because I remember it was in a dome in week 1, and we went for 2. Down by 1 to end the game, right? And we got it. And I remember thinking that changes the whole season. If we didn't get that, everything is just going to feel terrible. And I know that it's not going to, and this is the NFL and these are professional athletes and all that jazz. But I almost feel like that ruined their season. They're up 17-0. They got to think that everything's going well. They got this little Vrabel monkey off their back. The defense still looked good. I mean, they were confusing Caleb. I mean, that's the difference between preseason and regular season. All the different stunts they were getting. He didn't know how to set the protections properly, and of course, he's going to learn. And I'm not ready to write off Caleb Williams because, I was listening to Keg Show right before he came on, and he made a good point. Like C.J. Stroud looked terrible in his debut last year. We saw how that turned out. So it's not that Caleb Williams is bad, but for this early part of the season, it's going to be rough for him. Tennessee did a great job of mixing things up, and then the Bears still managed to get the victory, and Williams doesn't even throw for 100 yards. They don't score an offensive touchdown. DeAndre Swift, I'm glad I just kept passing on him, even though I was grabbing Zamir White instead, and we saw how that turned out, but he didn't do much. The whole receiving core as a whole was pretty quiet, and I don't even know if they were beating their coverages because Caleb just didn't have time to get rid of it. So I mean, I'm sure he'll get better, and it's got to be fun for the Bears fans to be 1-0. But that had to be the most uninspiring victory I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much to take away from the offense. You just got to wait and see how he looks next week against Houston. But I don't think he's going to look all that good next week either. So
yeah, it's going to take a little while, but he's going to learn from it because now he's got all the tape. Say, hey, when this guy came down, this is what happened. Hey, when this happened, this is what happened, right? And I'm sure all these guys are a lot faster than he's used to. So he probably wasn't as worried about sending protections at Oklahoma or USC because he was just rolling a bit and throwing darts. But his guys aren't 5 yards wide open like they were at Oklahoma and USC. And it's going to be a lot tougher transition. So we'll see if he gets there or if this is Trevor Lawrence 2.0 where he's good, but he's not elite. I see the Mahomes comparison, though, because he does do a great job of moving in the pocket, not to run, but just to create time and make the throw. And as he continues to develop that, I just wonder, though, I mean, Mahomes had Andy Reid developing him, right? And who does he have? Shane Waldron. And the other crazy thing was, why did they run the ball more? I know Swift didn't do crap, but take some pressure off your rookie quarterback. They dropped him back way too many times for his opening game. So overall, like the Bears, they didn't deserve to win that game. They didn't coach well. They didn't block well. I mean, they were just lucky that Will Levis is that bad. And I know we love Levis as like the backdoor stack towards the end of the year, and we're not taking too much off one game because just like Caleb can learn, Levis can also learn from his mistakes. But I mean, in his second year, he can't. Like I said, it almost felt like he threw the season away. Think of how much different that momentum is. And now I know they win next week, and you can start to forget it, but just that was just the biggest missed opportunity. Any more thoughts on that game? And I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, but I got thoughts for that game. Our Tyjae Spears shares aren't looking good because Tony Pollard had juice.
Yeah, I mean, I still think you'll get a split there, but I mean, I don't take much away from that game. I think we talked about this.
So here's what I took away:
Hoop Bowl of a game long enough.
No, all right. Well, I'm going to just summarize my takeaways. Number one, the Tennessee offense isn't as good as we thought it, or at least I'll go off me. I don't want to say we. Tennessee offense is not as good as I thought it was going to be. Obviously, they have time to improve. Tennessee defense is better than I thought it would be. Losing Vrabel, they were able to do it. I can't remember the name of the DC. I actually looked it up, and not a guy I'm familiar with, but he did a great job. And I think I actually gave more credit to Vrabel and was discounting the talent on that team. But they actually do have a lot of talent on that defense. We'll see when they're going against a different offensive line. And the Bears just, what a lucky win. I mean, I guess for a franchise that deserves some luck, though, right? They've had a lot of things go against them. Now let's move to one of our winning tickets, Tyler. And I thought we were actually going to beat this bet either. And I thought Gino left a lot on the thing. So while I've been victory lapping, I know that you were telling me and other people were telling me Gino's terrible. And I'm kind of feeling that way with the way that Kenneth Walker looked. I mean, he was one of the best running backs I saw yesterday. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable. You know, it's funny. Justin Fields was up there. The way he follows his blockers so well. He's really a great runner. The Kenneth Walker was the same way. The resurgence of Tyler Lockett, that Q-Tab dropped about all the hundreds. He gets way more work than JSN. So that was interesting. But I didn't think Gino looked that good. Like, he had that nice run for the touchdown, but it felt like he left a lot of throws on the field, and I felt like they should have won a lot more. That shouldn't have been as close as it was. And here's my stat for you, Tyler, to go ahead and justify everything you've been telling me all offseason about my guy Bo Nix, who I thought was going to be just great quarterback, and we'll see if he really is. But you told me all he can do is check down. So on passes over 10 yards, 2 of 12 with 2 picks. I mean, you're right. You just can't push it down the field. And it's not like Cortland Sutton and those guys aren't getting open. So Sean Payton's got his work cut out for him. What I did like about Nix, though, he is an NFL caliber athlete. I know there were some concerns about that, but I thought the size looked the part. When he scrambled, the speed looks the part. He doesn't look slow. Like Bryce Young looks kind of slow, right? Like Baker looks kind of slow. I thought Nix looked like to be a better athlete. So, Peyton's got his work cut out for him. And late round darling Josh Reynolds, leading receiver there for the Broncos. So let's see if he can get some of those Sutton shares up. Overall, I was happy to cash the bet, Tyler, but I felt like we should have cashed it way easier. And I kind of downgraded the Seahawks because I don't know. I bet the Broncos over on that win total, and now I'm starting to regret it. I still don't think that defense is that good. And I know I bet the Seahawks win total over, and I'm a little concerned about it too, that you guys were just right about Gino, and I'm just trying to go off that 1 year forever, and it's just simply not going to happen. All right, that's enough for me about that game. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Gino looked like how Gino is. He's not a good quarterback, and his offensive line is terrible.
And he's not a bad quarterback, right? He's like Derek Carr. He's just like, he's not absolutely terrible. Group. Like, you can win with him.
Yeah,
you can't win a Super Bowl, but you can win a regular season game.
Yes, he'll have his games like how Derek Carr had yesterday, where they're really good. They look like they're a top quarterback that played on that slate, but he's not a good quarterback. He's going to have games where, with this offensive line specifically, where if the pass rush is getting to him, they're not going to be able to do much. And if that team can also run stop, then Kenneth Walker's not going to be able to do anything. I think they were playing one of the bottom 5 teams in the league yesterday, and they couldn't get out of their own way. They had 2 safeties. They were this team a win, and in the end, they were able to pull away and win it. But I got to see them play a couple more games. They don't look very good.
They
Their
laid 3
defense
in
looks
New
good, but their
England.
offense is
Do you
not.
think they get that win?
I think they do, but it's going to be on the back of their defense.
I mean, it's not bad. Their defense is pretty good. For all the bad things we've said about Seattle, they've actually hit on a lot of draft picks there on their defense.
Yeah, they picked up a couple guys in free agency too. So, and Mike McDonald's leading the defense.
Yeah. So all is not lost in Seattle, but that win should have been way easier, man. And that win total, that we should have been over that team total there, like halfway through the third. Like we had to wait way too long to catch that bet.
Yeah.
All right. How about this? I got to use the bathroom real quick. The Cowboys beat the Browns 33-17. We're both going to slander Deshaun Watson. You start, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say let's skip this game just because I don't have much to say about it. We know Watson stinks. Dallas did look decent. Their special teams was able to put a touchdown on the board. Turpin's also always been a problem when it comes to returning these punts and kicks, and he was able to take a punt back for a touchdown. Dak was able to get the ball moving. They lost Ferguson to injury, which could be big, but they said he didn't tear anything, so he should be back in probably about 3 to 4 weeks. It's a strained MCL. CeeDee Lamb looked decent. Zeke was able to move the ball on the ground, which was nice for them. But, I mean, Cleveland just isn't a good football team outside of their defense. Like, they have good weapons, but Deshaun Watson's the problem. And to be honest, they probably should go to Winston because Winston is similar to Flacco to where he could just air it out. Yeah. Also, I seen one clip that said Watson, when he did play good in Houston, that Bill O'Brien basically just had the Clemson offense. And that ever since Bill O'Brien hasn't been Deshaun Watson's coach, he hasn't been good. So that is if that is true, that is what happened with Watson if he was still running that Clemson offense in the NFL. Because once he went away from it, he couldn't run an actual NFL pro style offense.
So when it comes to Watson, I remember when we first started working together and he was like my favorite quarterback. And I kept saying, like, he's really good. Like, he's almost as good as Mahomes. And this, oh my gosh. What a fall from grace. Did you see him holding his shoulder?
Yeah, his shoulder's they got to go to Winston.
They have to.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you touched on this because I wasn't able to hear. Did you see that he had another sexual assault charge filed on him today?
Yeah, he gets sued again. You just got to get rid of him, or just sit him on the bench.
But listen to this. Listen to this. This is why it's important. Normally, I don't even want to dive into this stuff. Like you notice, I just skipped over to the Tyreek incident. But because this isn't a civil case, it's actually a criminal case. The Browns might be able to void his contract.
Yeah, this could be their chance to get out. So I think we see Jameis Winston sooner rather than later.
And no one in America would be upset about it, right?
No.
Not one person. Maybe Deshaun Watson's mom. So one person in America would be upset. But all of us want to get rid of him. And every quarterback probably hates him because he single-handedly ruined guaranteed money. Now, these guys are still getting paid, but they're not getting guaranteed. Even Love says it wasn't fully guaranteed, right? Dax isn't fully guaranteed. No. Yeah. I mean, he ruined it for everybody. Yeah, he ruined it for everybody. How much of that was the Cowboys defense? Like, obviously, that's the tough defense to play right off the bat. And we talk about players who could be the best player in football, non-quarterback, and Michael Parsons has to be up there.
Yeah, for sure. Dallas's defense looked good. Their special teams looked even better. But, I mean, it's just that Watson is trash. Like, I gave him one more shot, and week one, even with a tough defense, he did not look like he had it anymore. So
I'm so glad I faded all those players. Like, I got a little bit of
let Winston just throw 50-50 balls to Amari Cooper and these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad that I have so little Deshaun Watson. I have so little. I don't think I drafted Jerry Jeudy once. Maybe I did on accident. My Cooper shares are below market. I mean, I'm so happy about that.
I'm not going to say the weapon shares could be good still because if Winston comes in, he gets.
Because Winston comes back, but for now, I mean, it's just pointless. It's just pointless backing that guy. So I'm trying to think who they play next week.
They play the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh yeah, I'm landing with Jacksonville. What do you think?
3.5, and it looks like it's going to get the 4.
Yeah, it's going to. Who wants to bet on that team? The only reason I don't want to is what if they announce that Winston's going to start next week?
I mean, the Jags offensive line did not look good against a Miami and now they're going to play Cleveland.
I don't care.
I wouldn't be rushing that ticket. I wouldn't be rushing that ticket to the window.
That has
the making of just an ugly game where Cleveland's able to win it by like 3 points in the end, and they total points scored in that game was like 20.
Cleveland's not winning that game.
I don't care how good the defense is. Last year.
What's up?
They won some games with him last year before he went down. So all those wins didn't come with him.
I think he's worse. I think he's worse than he was last year.
It might be, but the defense is still going to will him to some wins, Fred.
Yeah, well, we get to disagree again then, because I'm not touching that. I mean, I'm not touching the Browns. I'm all over the Jaguars there. Coming off a loss. Jaguars should have won that game. They have to be disappointed.
Yeah.
I was talking to my buddy, and then, as the more I thought about the answer is Tennessee. But who feels worse this morning or tomorrow morning or whenever they go to watch that film, Jacksonville or Tennessee? I mean, who just blew like just a golden opportunity to start their season?
Probably God.
Has to be Tennessee now that I think about it more. But you think Jacksonville?
I think Jacksonville. I think you're letting the fact that you bet on Tennessee just the dread into that game so much. Like, we should just write that game off. It never happened. Let's not talk about it anymore, Spread. It keeps coming back up on the show.
Because
your tilt showing from your bet loss. You just keep wanting to talk about it.
All right, let's talk about another bet I lost. Dumbass Raiders. And my coach from Compton let me down.
That was your homer pick. It was your homer pick. We let it go onto the sheet, and it gave us our 1 in the 1 loss column. They stink.
Well,
they got a good defensive line, but they stink. And Joe Alt looked like he was the best offensive lineman in the draft.
Shit, bro.
Yeah. So
he held down Max Crosby.
J.K. Dobbins looked great behind this offensive line. I mean,
bro, when J.K. came in, were you like, why were you playing Gus the whole first half? Like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's like Gus was never going to be the open field back. Like, that is what J.K. Dobbins does when he's healthy. Like, he can get into space and run away from guys. So we'll be on his yards and alts for a while. He's going to lead this backfield.
Bro, I'm so bitter that I allowed myself to have hope about the Raiders this year.
Yeah. You guys are going to be picking one of those 3 quarterbacks we talked about, too.
What's up?
You guys are going to be picking one of those 3 quarterbacks we talked about, too. And at some point, you'll trade Devontae Adams this year.
And I bet you our dumbass team's going to get freaking Shedeur Sanders. I don't know. I got friends that really like him, but I don't know. I'm just worried about the attitude. Yeah. And then, so I was listening
the attitude, the baggage he comes with.
I was listening to Middlecoff on the way up here, and he's like, "Oh, you could probably get a second and a third for Devontae." But I'm like, we always whiff on our draft picks anyways.
Yeah.
What? So I can get another second-round pick out of Oregon State that's not even playing. So I can get Tyree Wilson, who ended up getting replaced by I can't even remember, but Tyree Wilson was supposed to get the snaps. What's up?
Raiders till I'm going to go to the.
Okay, cool. Tyree Wilson was supposed to get the snaps. Yeah. When you come back, when you turn your camera back on, I'll throw it back to you. Tyree Wilson was supposed to get the snaps. That's our number 7 overall pick last year. Kuntz gets hurt. So, first of all, he wasn't even starting. He's supposed to take him in, and then he ends up not even playing off that. We blew that draft pick. So, it's like, why would we trade Devontae Adams to get 2 picks and we're going to absolutely lose? I'm so frustrated with this team. And you know what's crazy is I watched that game and I go, I can't believe that we're starting Gardner Minshew. He looks so bad. And then you pull up the box score, and so let's say you're only box score watching. You didn't spend all day in the sports book like I did. You don't watch every single game, blah, blah, blah. You just wake up Monday morning. You say, Minshew's not that bad. And now I realize like how I fell into this trap. Look at this line. 25 of 33 for 257, a TD and an interception. That's not that bad, right? It's better than Herbert's line of 17 of 26, 144, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Now I guess we avoid turnovers. And the Raiders lost a turnover battle. And don't even get me started on Zamir White fumbling that ball, because for all of us like me who overloaded Zamir White, thinking he's going to be a bell cow, I mean, he's not going to. Madison looked better than he did. So, I mean, F me in that regard. But I was just saying, dude, that's why football and fantasy football is nothing to do with betting, because this line from Minshew is not that bad. But you watched him play, and he looked to be like 1/10 of the quarterback that Herbert was. Like 1/10, even though he scored more fantasy points. Ooh. I mean, it's just like, I feel so stupid for even. Oh, he's not that bad. They did okay with the Colts last year. Like just off eye test, he looked like just one step above of Bryce Young, Daniel Jones, and Deshaun Watson. He looked so bad. I don't even know how he completed 25 passes.
Well, I'm not going to say when I knew our bet was dead, but when I knew we were in danger of our bet being dead. I forget which podcast it was, but I was listening to it at work during the week, and they talked about this game, and they got the Minshew, and they said he's only been good with that specific offensive coordinator. He played with him in Philly, he played with him in Indy, and he played with him in Jacksonville, and he's not here. I was like, oh, this is not good. I was like, he's not going to look good as a Raiders quarterback.
I mean, and to be fair, if they go for it on that fourth down and convert, which they should have been able to, because, I mean, they weren't running that bad.
No, they were
Maybe we're having a different conversation. So not only does the front office let me down by bringing in this career backup journeyman to be a starter, which he's not built to be, the coach that I touted all year let me down by making one of the most gutless calls we've seen. It's like the first time since 2014 that a team in that situation didn't go for it there in their own territory. I mean, it was just, if I didn't win almost every other bet, I would be a lot more upset today.
Yeah, that's a coward's
okay,
move.
so that's enough Raiders. Like, you guys already knew they sucked, but I drank the Kool-Aid and now I'm vomiting it up. Let's talk about the Chargers, because we knew that Harbaugh turns teams around, and this was everything to be a Jim Harbaugh football team. They dominated on both sides of the line of scrimmage. That offensive line is elite, and I don't care that they don't have weapons, because I remember Josh Palmer dropped a pass in the end zone and Herbert threw a dime. And I mean, Palmer should not have dropped it. It maybe wasn't a perfect pass, but it's a pass that NFL wide receivers should be able to catch.
Maybe that's what
Keenan Allen probably makes that catch. What's up?
Maybe that's what made Palmer angry, and that's why he was beating up on the Raiders player, getting himself ejected.
What was he? One of the guys who got ejected? He got our guy Jack Jones ejected, and that's like one of our best corners. So I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah, that's who he was fighting, was Jack Jones.
I
mean,
we were already dead at that point.
Harbaugh's going to be 2-0 spread because they're going to Carolina this week.
Do you think they cover that 5?
It's 6.5 now. Loser season.
I don't think we need to tease it.
I don't think you have to, but there's a lot of teasable lines on this board.
Bro, look, one's a hard-nosed football team that's built right from the inside out. They dominated both sides of the line of scrimmage. And I know I was a little down on this team to start the year because I thought that Herbert not playing and the plantar, but he looked okay, and I think he's going to continue to get better under the system. And if they win at the line of scrimmage, it might not be this year, but it just sucks for me as a Raiders fan. The Chargers are going to be really good. I think they'll be a Super Bowl contender within 2 to 3 years.
I mean, they'll still always be number 2 in their division.
We'll see. We'll see, dude, because they're going to continue to improve. They're going to continue to improve.
I also think the Harbaugh experiment is also something that lasts like 2 to 3 years, and then it kind of dies from there. So if they don't get it in those 2 to 3 years, it's just not going to happen.
That could be true as well. All right, enough ranting about that game. I mean, what a gut punch to back that crappy team.
The other problem is like they can't really go out and spend all kinds of money because they have so much money already tied up in Bosa, Mack, Herbert. And so they're going to have to tie up money in Slater and Alt eventually. So they don't have much money to go around and get these guys weapons.
For another 4 years. Mack and Bosa are getting near towards the end, so they can just draft and move on, and they'll actually probably get their draft picks right, unlike the Raiders.
Let's see. We'll see about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe you're not as optimistic as me, but I'm just watching, and that's the team doing things right. Just like when I watch OKC, and I go, they're doing things right. They got rid of everybody.
That's different, though.
I'm just saying. I'm talking about team building from the front office perspective.
Yeah.
You have your franchise quarterback, you got an elite coach, and you're not overpaying on the outside for old. I know Keenan Allen and Mike Williams will make that team better this year, but in the long run, to give the money to the guys on the line. And that's what they did. And right now, the Detroit Lions, and we're going to get to them, they have the best offensive line in football. I wouldn't be surprised in 2 years if we're talking about the Los Angeles Chargers having the best line in football, and I'm just going to be sick to my stomach because the Raiders are just going to have no chance. You're going to have Mahomes on one side and this Harbaugh-Herbert combination. I mean, give me an effing break, dude.
At least you'll have Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, stop. All right, one of our easiest bets of the day, Buccaneers went over, man. I mean, so we've talked about bad quarterback play. Commanders might have the worst defense in the league, bro. I mean, I know Carolina looked bad too, but that secondary is just terrible.
I mean, their secondary is terrible. And then going up against Evans and Godwin and McMillan looked good too. I see a guy in the chat's talking about him. He led the Bucs in wide receiver snaps.
But I think that's only because the game wasn't close, so they'll let him get the work.
Yeah, the game was close, so Mike Evans instantly went to the bench. But, I mean, Baker's resurgence is pretty nice to see. I mean, isn't that something, Spread? He gives Cleveland their first playoff win in years, plays hurt for them, and gets all that slander. They kick him out of Cleveland for Deshaun Watson, who never gets back to what he was, and Baker's been good ever since and has won a playoff game. So it's nice to see that. And he's going to be good. He's going to be good here while as long as they have these weapons. So I think that they're going to they could just coast and probably win this division again because Atlanta doesn't look like they're going to be.
Don't sleep on New Orleans, dude. That defense is really good.
No, I'm not taking anything from the fact that they beat up on the JV team of the NFL.
Buccaneers just did the same thing.
I'm not sitting here saying the Buccaneers are like going to win 12 games and win the division, but they won the division last year. They can coast and do exactly the same thing and probably win the division again. Right. Derek Carr is going to have his game spread where he loses them. At the end of the day,
you're right.
He loses them. Games, yes. I said Derek Carr is going to have his games where he loses them, like games terribly.
Yeah. Poor James Daniels.
As for the Washington side, I mean, I'm not going to, just to get right to him, Jaden Daniels. Bet his rushing prop over until it gets up to about 80 because he's going to run the shit out of the ball.
Dude, they have no line. Their defense is terrible. Yeah, I don't like what's going on in Washington right now.
Doesn't look good at all.
Yeah. And, of course, they'll get better because we talked about bowls against rookie quarterbacks, and so I'm sure that's tough. But, I mean.
Hey, the Browns just got another weapon. Kadarius Toney.
You can't. Oh, jeez. All right, you want to talk about the lucky cover of the night? Because I thought the Lions were going to absolutely smoke the Rams. And at 17-3, I thought I was right. So here's my takeaways from that game. Sean McVay, one of my keys was I said, their offensive line sucks. Bro, he had Stafford looking like Brady. They were getting rid of the ball in like 2 seconds. That was an excellent job by McVay, an excellent job by Stafford because a lot of quarterbacks can't do that. And he did it with ease, and he made it look good. And, I know we talk about best coach, best quarterback wins the game. I didn't feel that way. I felt like Stafford was better than Goff, and McVay's probably better than Campbell. But just the Lions line is so much better, right? I mean, I know the Ben Johnson's really good too. That was fun to watch for a primetime game. Well coached, great offensive development on both sides. So the Rams might be a little better than I thought because McVay's so smart. They're going to get over those offensive line issues. And I thought their defense played pretty well. And I know I kept harping on the loss of Aaron Donald, but that guy Verse out of Florida State, their first round draft pick in like 8 years or something. But now you see why you want first round picks, right? I mean, he's going to step in, and of course, he's not Aaron Donald, but he helped mitigate that loss pretty well, going against a really good offensive line. Now, what I want to give the Lions credit for was old school football. Old man me loved it because we've talked about it before. As they've all turned everything to passing. All these linebackers are quick because they have to be able to cover, right? So the Lions just ran up and ran the ball almost every single play in OT, and the only pass they threw was a dump off to Jahmyr Gibbs. So like as Bill Walsh would have said, if you younger guys go look him up, he's the innovator of all this stuff. It's just a run play that's just got a little bit to set up. So they essentially ran on every single play, and they won up front, and they took advantage of a tired Rams defense and the smaller linebackers because of that second level. Montgomery was getting 3 or 4 yards after contact as he just continued to move forward. And we saw why Montgomery was, even though he's a backup running back, he's going higher than some starters like Zamir and Ramondre and Zach Moss, right? I mean, Montgomery is going higher because the Lions run the ball in the red zone. And it was like at a certain point, there was no reason for them to even pass the ball on that overtime drive. It felt like to win that bet, that the -3.5, we just had to win the toss. So it's kind of lucky to almost hit a parlay there, winning the toss. But I absolutely love the way the Detroit Lions play football. And that was just a fun win for me.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Johnson's a smart guy when it comes to football. He's seen the defense was tired, so he ran the ball the entire overtime. But the rest of the game, when the defense wasn't tired, they were trying to air it out to Jameson Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown was non-existent in this game, so I'm interested to see if they come out with something about an injury there or if he was just very well covered in that game. They're going to run the ball a ton with both these running backs. I mean, you'll probably see both these guys get up over 40 to 50 yards every game. Gibbs will mix in some of the receiving yards too. And they just have a ton of weapons. Like, you didn't hear Laporta's name called much in this game either. So like,
no, he didn't do much. He had a quiet game.
Yeah, so Laporta and ASB didn't do much, and they could explode for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns in any game. So they have a tough offense to guard. Their defense looked better. DJ Reader looked pretty good in the middle. And I think at the end, they were just trying to almost play a little conservative, and they let the Rams get the momentum, and they were able to take the lead for a split second. They had to kick the field goal to tie it up and get to overtime. But in the end, they were able to beat this team. And I could see them just being like this a lot of the year, where they run out to a lead, they kind of go conservative. The other team comes back, takes lead, and then they have to fight back to win the game. So,
I mean, if the 49ers take a step back, the Lions to me are right there.
I think the Lions are the best team,
especially with Green Bay falling off with that Jordan Love injury, because the NFL is so greedy. They just ruined a $50 million player to go play a game in Brazil to what? I think Brazilians are going to start watching the NFL over soccer. Like, give me a freaking break. I'm still pissed about that. And first of all, I'm underweight on Jordan Love in best ball. I barely was even drafting him, right? So it's technically good for my best ball. And I'm not even a Packers fan, but it just pisses me off. Because this is going to happen all year, and we got to watch Malik Willis and Bryce Young and Gardner Minshew and Deshaun Watts. I mean, it's just Daniel Jones. I mean, we don't want to watch that crap, right?
No.
Like, at least Bo Nix looked serviceable against the Seahawks, right? You weren't like, this guy shouldn't be on the field. So, all right. I don't even know how we got into. All right, anything more on that game? I'm sorry, I kind of took that one over.
No, you started crying about the Brazil game again, so I have no idea where we left off. So let's get into tonight's game.
Let's dive in, Tyler. The San Francisco 49ers host the New York Jets. Let me pull the sportsbook back up because this line has been moving. It opened at 3.5. When I was down in Reno this weekend, it spot all the way to 4.5. It was 3.5 when I was cashing that Lions ticket at the end of the night when I went to bed. But I think it's back. Okay, so it's 4 for me offshore. What number do you see, and how do you approach this game? Because I do have a play for it.
I see 4.5, and I'm on the Jets plus the 4.5 and the money line. I think they have the better defense. Their offensive line is put together well. I know Rodgers could look like a statue, but I think Breece Hall runs through their defense tonight. So I think that they play well. I think Ayuk's on a snap count. I think CMC's actually banged up. I think they start slow this year in San Fran, so we'll see. I know you're on the other side, and you're going to be Kyle Shanahan does this, Kyle Shanahan does that, so go ahead.
All right. First of all, I'm not technically on the other side. We can both win. You know what I took? 49ers first half. And we saw this yesterday, and I know that Kirk Cousins, and I should be stoned for doing this, or throwing rocks at me, not getting high. But we saw the problems that Kirk Cousins had, who we said is like a pretty good quarterback in the NFL, right? Not as good as Meg thinks, but he's pretty good. And 18 months off is just too much time to go to get back to that football speed, right? Aaron Rodgers.
Can I counter that? Can I counter that
right
real
ahead.
Quick before? One of those guys was prepared to come back at the end of last season and play if they were in playoff contention. The other guy didn't even think to step foot on the preseason.
Okay.
In this Rodgers
counter, but I still
debate.
think the lack of real time, like preseason football doesn't get you ready, right? I mean, look at Bo Nix in the preseason, right? And didn't look anything like that yesterday, right? Look at Kenny Pickett last year in the preseason. Didn't look anything like that. So the speed of an NFL game cannot be simulated under any circumstances, not in practice, not in joint sessions with the other teams, and not in preseason. So I think that's going to be a tough thing. I think that they're going to start slow. They'll probably try and run the ball a lot, but you don't think that the 49ers are going to be ready? And I looked his name up, and I can't remember his name, the new DC. So they got rid of Steve Wilkes because he didn't do that good last year. They have a new DC, but I think they're going to be ready. I think they're going to be ready to stop the run. I think both teams are going to run the ball a lot in the first, which, is going to lower the number of plays. And I just don't see Rodgers, even if he has a good game overall, I just don't see him starting hot here after spending so much time off the field. So I'm on the 49ers first half.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that, but I think the Jets, I think their defense is going to dominate this game.
So why do you think the Jets defense is so much better than the Niners defense that made the Super Bowl last year?
The Niners offense is kind of what led.
It's still a pretty good defense. I mean, Nick Bosa is almost up there with
the Jets defense won 7. But
yeah,
okay, so one guy. So they have Fred Warner's good linebacker too, but the Jets as an really entire defensive unit. Okay, so but what I'm saying is the 49ers have 2 key guys, and those 2 guys. They lost Eric Armstead. He's now a Jaguar. I know they picked up, I believe it was Javon Carter, but we'll see how that goes. Or Javon Hargrave they picked up, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Javon Carter would be sweet.
Yeah, I didn't say they weren't getting him. But yeah, the Jets have a very good defensive line with Quinnen Williams and those guys. They have decent linebackers. They have the best secondary in the league. So they're going to take out Ayuk for what he does play with Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed. Debo could be a problem because he likes to run those underneath routes or get the handoffs. CMC having the calf problem is going to give them fits, I think, because I think he's going to be limited.
I don't think it matters, man. I think Jordan Mason can get plenty of carries and do fine.
But Trent Williams also didn't practice at all this preseason or do anything else.
He's the one guy that doesn't need to. He doesn't need to.
Okay, so he just gets excluded from everything that you just argue for every other player.
It's way different being a quarterback.
I think it's a little it's different, but it's also the fact that you need to be in game speed when you're the guy probably taking the most hits in the game because you're on the offensive line.
Yeah, he's been given the most hits. He's an absolute beast.
Yeah.
Arguably best left tackle in the game.
No, he is the best left tackle in the game, but he also hasn't had any contact all preseason / off season. Let's see how he does in his first game.
He's gonna crush. He's gonna crush. Trent Williams is gonna look good. I'm not worried about him. I'm actually more worried about Ayuk.
I can tell you who's gonna crush in this game, and it's gonna be Breece Hall. Breece Hall is gonna crush this game.
Honestly, if you want to bet his props, I can't argue against it because, like I said, with Rodgers, they're going to try and ease him back in. I think it's going to be a heavy dose of run in the first half.
Yeah, heavy dose of running. Garrett Wilson's going to be uncoverable by these corners. They don't have good corners in San Francisco. They lean on this little group of linebackers in this defensive line to get pressure, which eases everything for the secondary. Garrett Wilson is going to shred this secondary.
One thing we know about Rodgers, though, he'll throw it away the second he feels pressure.
Oh, he will, but a 67.5 yards on Garrett Wilson, and if Rodgers gets time, he probably goes over 100 yards.
I don't think he's going to get time. There's a reason the Niners made the Super Bowl. All right, and I'll give you one argument, too, and I don't know the number off my head, but Super Bowl losers are terrible against the spread in week 1.
I seen that stat, yeah.
I can't remember what it is, but I think it's 5-13 over the last 18
I also
years.
think this defense could just give Brock Purdy fits, too.
That's true. I mean, that's true. And so that's why it is fun as it is, right?
And I know Saleh wasn't a coach when Purdy was the quarterback there, but you got to think he still knows a little bit about Kyle Shanahan's offense, and he can kind of scheme for it a little better than most coaches in the league. And he's having.
But don't you think that evens out with Shanahan knowing Saleh so well too?
I mean, to a point, but he doesn't know him with this better unit of a defense. This has the makings of what the Pittsburgh's defense is able to do, where it's just they look like the best defense in the league. It's yeah, because they had a whole offseason to game plan for this one game, basically. And they know this offense in and out. So I think the Jets are going to surprise some people here.
All right, well, we're on opposite sides, but we'll see who got bragging rights. But I think it's going to be like the Steelers game, Tyler, where I'm bragging again, where I'm saying don't take these old-ass quarterbacks coming off injury. And I'm not saying they're going to have
Yeah.
terrible seasons. I'm just saying it's a tough week one. It's just almost like being a rookie. But that's why I'm going first half. So, I mean, hey, I'm not even that convicted because I didn't even lay the full game. I just
Are we building the same game parlay before we get off of here?
Sure. I completely agree with you on Brees. So go ahead and knock that one out.
Do you want to? Okay, well, so we'll put his prop in there, put his rushing yards in. I think, judging by the fact that we both think this is a running game, do we want to add the under?
I was thinking that too. My only issue for that is we're getting the worst of the line. The under's just been bet down all day.
We could do an all.
All right, what do you want to put it at? 45?
We'll add your San Francisco -2.5 first half spread.
Because well, I guess it won't technically. But yeah, we want to kind of have them contradict each other to get the best payout, right?
Yep. We'll alt this total up to 49.5 and go under.
Yeah, let's do something fun like that, almost like a teaser.
All right. Then do we want to get one more in here? Do we want to get a touchdown score in? Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson. Really don't want to go.
Let's each pick one. Let's each pick one. You pick yours. You get a Jet. I'll get a Niner.
Do we want to just make this the Brees Hall parlay? Yeah, probably. We'll just go Brees.
Okay, great. I want to do Debo or Kittle. Who do you think?
I'd rather do Debo because this defense could be a problem and they could get pressure. And if Trent Williams
Kittle stays in the block,
okay, Kittle stay in the block.
All right, throw Debo on there. What's our payout?
40-1.
Read that to everyone so they can tail it. And it's on FanDuel, right?
Yep, it's Brees Hall over 65.5 rushing yards. Niners first half -2.5, under 49.5. Hall and Debo to score a touchdown.
Great 5-leg parlay to pay off 40-1, Tyler.
Yep.
Great way to start the season. Fun arguing with you again, Tyler. Good to know that we still don't agree.
Oh yeah,
Skip
you know
Bayless will be proud.
Yep.
You can be my little Wayne.
And then we won't agree tomorrow either, so should be a fun one.
All right, yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Oh wait, no, we're doing our show tomorrow, huh?
Yep. There won't be a lot of agreement.
So we will be back tomorrow. We're gonna give out picks because you know what? I'm glad because dude, I consumed so much content this week, and this week it worked out. But I do notice that I'm influenced. But I'm happy because every play that we made before I listened to other people, well, except for the Raiders, that was fucking stupid. I mean, just shoot me now. How stupid was that? Gardner freaking Minshew. What a. And my coach from Compton coaches like he's the coach from like, what's a rich area, Tyler? The Hamptons. Yeah,
he did.
The coach from Hamptons. How soft was that? Not going for it? I do not expect the coach from Compton to be a just straight up coward. Unfreaking believable. Tyler, take us out with some positive words.
Yeah, I mean, Jets are going to win tonight. Rodgers is going to look great, and we're going to cash his parlay.
I said positive.
Those are positive words.
All right, I'm sorry I interrupted you. One more time.
No, I mean, that was it.
All right. Tyler likes the Jets. I like the Niners first half. We gave you the parlay. We'll be back tomorrow.